No permutation of reality where you don't hit this fucking lift. Come in a machine, baby. What's up, guys? Enkiri here, and I've got a fun one for you guys today. So continuing on with the concept from my last training vlog, we're going to showcase an entire week of my current training in this video. But this time, it'll be the upper body work only. So it's going to be 2 full upper body training sessions condensed together here in this video. Now, the first session, that contains my heavy work for the week, and then the second session takes on more of a volume-oriented approach. So kicking off here with session number 1, you can see that I'm ramping up to a heavy single on the strict overhead press off of pins. Now, my current goal with the strict press is to press 2 plates or 225 pounds overhead, and I'm willing to use whatever variation allows me to achieve that goal. I'm currently training about 6 or 7 different variations of overhead pressing in totality with my current conjugate programming, but I think that this variation here, the straight bar off of pins, is going to be my best chance of hitting 225 pounds, or at least hitting it the fastest. And then I think that the traditional straight bar overhead press from a free position, not done off the pins, is going to be my second best chance at doing it. But anyway, I worked up to 200 pounds here for a pretty solid single. I think that there's a small chance that I probably could have gutted out 205 here on this particular day. And after my last primer rep with 185 pounds, which went up easier than 185 has ever gone up, I did actually debate loading 205 onto the bar just for a second there. But I told myself not to get greedy and just stick with 200 pounds for the top lift. That was kind of what I had hoped I'd be able to do going into the session, and I'm glad that I stuck with that plan, because even if I grinded out 205 here, it really would have been too much of a battle, more of a battle than I wanted here on this particular day. So 200 pounds was the right call. And that's really the thing about training like this. It can be incredibly effective, but sometimes we get so wrapped up in what we want to be able to lift that we try to force numbers that we aren't really ready for. And in doing so, we actually end up kind of sabotaging the whole process and actually sabotaging our progress in the process of doing that. And so you really have to remember to stay within yourself and not get greedy, especially on a strict OHP movement like this, where 5 pounds, it's actually more of a jump than it sounds like. Now, after the initial ramp up, I moved on to the secondary portion of the workout. Here, I was alternating between the regular standing OHP and the seated cable row. Now, for both exercises, the plan is just to hit 3 sets. I'll start off light, and then I kind of pyramid my way up in weight with each set. For the OHP, the goal is to work up to a heavy set of 5 reps in this session. And for the cable row, the plan is to work up to something in the 10 to 15 rep range. That's tough in the 10 to 15 rep range. I usually let the reps taper down as the sets go on and the weight goes up. And I did actually end up overshooting on my OHP here because I got greedy. Probably should have gone with 165 on the final set, but I got greedy, a little bit greedy, and I wanted 170, and consequently, I was only able to get it for 4 reps. But so that's just a small failure there. It's not as big of a loss as missing the top single would have been, which kind of would put a damper on the whole session. But still, it really puts into perspective for you guys what I was talking about a minute ago, kind of the importance of not getting greedy, which is something that happens to all of us, especially people with my temperament who are always trying to push the boundaries a little bit further. But the long-term progression here is always going to be better served by me lifting slightly less weight for higher quality repetitions and actually staying within my target rep ranges versus me trying to lift slightly more weight and having the rep quality go to shit, or me losing out on potential training volume. Because the cost to benefit ratio, it really just doesn't skew in the right direction here, just for that little bit of extra added weight. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up session number 1 in the training week. And so moving on to session 2 now. This session is more volume oriented in general. There are no heavy singles. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm rotating the primary OHP variation in this session each week. So that can be a standing overhead press, a pin overhead press, Swiss bar OHP off pins, Z press, or as was the case today, the Z press off of pins. Now in this session, the primary OHP movement is always a different variation from the one that I used earlier in the week during the heavy session. So since I did a pin OHP earlier in the week, I would not do a standing pin OHP in this session. And this was actually only I think the 3rd time that I've ever done a Z press at all, any Z press variation in my life. And it's actually the first time that I ever tried doing the Z press off of pins. So usually what I'm doing here, I'm sticking with sets in the 8 to 10 rep range primarily. So I'll just ramp up in weight, I'll get in that heavy set, and then I'll move on to the next segment of the workout. But here, this was actually one of the rare times where I decided to go for a heavy 5 instead of a heavy 8 to 10. And I did that in part because I find that lifts off of pins,
upper back engagement is fucking insane like this, I'm not gonna lie.
Just in general tend to lend themselves better to slightly lower reps. And so with that, I ended up hitting a pretty nice sets here on the Z press off of pins with 140 pounds and 150 pounds. And man, that lift is just freaking crazy. For starters, the core has to be absolutely rock solid the entire time, and it basically forces you to press from a fully upright position. There's no layback here whatsoever that you can do to get the chest involved, otherwise you'll just fall over. But what I find even more striking than that is that the lockout becomes really, really hard. You end up with this weirdly high sticking point here. And it honestly surprises me every single time because I'm not used to the sticking point being so high up in the press. And you'll see I kind of get caught off guard a few times by it in this workout. And I think the reason for that is that pressing like this demands an insane amount of thoracic strength and thoracic mobility as well. My upper back, it actually cramped up on me the first time that I did this exercise, just from the high level of engagement in that thoracic region while being forced to remain rigidly extended there as well, just to hold position and get the bar overhead. And when I hold that last rep overhead with 150 for a few seconds, it's actually crazy to me how hard the upper back is firing just to keep me stable and keep me in proper position. So that is a unique benefit that you get here from this movement that you can't really get from any other overhead pressing movements. And moving on to the next portion of the workout, this is the close grip Larsen press off pins paired up with the lat pull down. And for this secondary portion of the session here, I'm doing the same thing as the secondary portion in session 1 from earlier in the week. But typically in this session, I'll use higher reps on the pressing movement. So I'm doing 3 sets here, and I'm ramping up the weight again each set until I hit my heavy set for the day, usually a set of 8 to 10 reps. And then sometimes I'll throw in a back off set after that, just if I feel like it or whatever. But for the pull movement, again, I'm usually sticking with slightly higher reps in the 10 to 15 rep range, where generally I'll start off with the lighter weight, I'll lean towards the upper end of the rep range, and then as the weight gets heavier, I'll let the reps taper down a little bit towards the lower end of the rep range. And here with the pin press though, for some reason I did my first set 165 for, I think it was 10 reps. And then for some reason I decided to feel out a heavy single before doing the remaining sets. And that was probably an energy suck and not really the smartest move, but whatever, I guess. So I ended up going singles. I did 185, 205, 225, and then 245 for a heavy one, which I thought would be kind of easy, but it ended up being pretty slow to lock out and tougher than I wanted it to be. But then after that, I came back down and I did my remaining working sets. I hit 205 for 9 reps and 185 for 10 reps. So overall, it ended up being a solid effort on that exercise. The pull downs, though, I've just been absolutely loving that movement lately. I've been setting them up from a seated position on my bench, and I recently bought a whole set of these ergonomic mag grip handles, or whatever they're called, and it's just been awesome with those. Now I have 4 different options, 4 different grip widths just for my neutral grip, and then I have a 5th option where I can use a supinated grip. And all these different handles, they just make the movement feel so much smoother and so much better in general. So I've really been putting in some good work here on this exercise. I'm gonna build some huge freaking lats, bigger than I have now, and maybe we'll see if I can come back and hit some more chin-up PRs in the future as well. And then I wrapped this session up with some Lou raises. I actually took the 35-pound plates for a ride here, really just to see how they'd feel. And I gotta say, it was actually pretty fucking ugly. But this same time last year, the 25-pounders looked this ugly. And now I can move the 25-pounders really smooth for 10 or sometimes even 15 reps. And I kind of took a break from this exercise for a few months, these last couple months, but now I want to bring it back into the rotation, and I want to clean up the 35-pounders, and I want to make those look as smooth as the 25-pounders look now. But so yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the vlog, and I hope it gives you some motivation or just ideas to put forth into your own training. And please remember to hit the like button before you go. Leave me some love in the comments as well. Check out EnkiriEliteFitness.com for online coaching and training programs, and be sure to pick up one of my training templates as well. The feedback that I've gotten from those over the last couple years has just been spectacular, nothing short of immense. And I was actually having a conversation yesterday with somebody on my Patreon, and he basically ended up telling me that I don't sell the value of my training templates hard enough, because he's been following my content for years now, and in spite of that, he thought these were just generic training programs, like free, similar to the types of free programs that you can find on the internet. But the thing is, they absolutely are not. They're basically a choose your own adventure style program that you can essentially run indefinitely, or at the very least, that you can go back to and reuse at any point down the line in your training career and still make progress off of and still find value out of. They're highly customizable, and part of the point of them is to kind of teach you guys how to build your own program by using the layout of my templates as a framework, right? And I don't want to go into too much detail here today, but if you guys are interested, just leave me a comment here on the video and I'll answer any questions that you have, or you can check out the FAQ page on my website. But anyway, that's all I got, guys. Keep training hard, and I will catch you guys next time.